Alarms tear through the hallway, and I am already running before I understand why. The ship shakes so hard my teeth click together, and somewhere behind me, a voice is shouting coordinates that mean nothing to me. This is the third attack in 6 days. My hands are shaking, but I keep moving, because stopping means dying, and dying means the war ends without us. My name is Daniel Voss, and I am a logistics officer on a coalition warship called the Hollow Star. We fight alongside an alien species called the Ashen, cold, brilliant creatures who calculate everything and feel almost nothing. They are our allies, but they do not understand us. Not really, not yet. I reach the lower deck and grab the handle of a supply locker just as the ship rolls sideways. Inside the locker, curled into a small orange shape, is the reason half the crew is still standing after 6 days of hell. Her name is Biscuit. She is a cat. A plain, ordinary ginger cat that my friend Ellie smuggled aboard 8 months ago, hidden inside a duffel bag meant for spare uniforms. At the time, Command called it a violation. The Ashen called it inefficient. I called it the best decision anyone on this ship ever made. The explosion outside rattles the walls again, and Biscuit does not even flinch. She just blinks up at me, unbothered, like the universe ending is somebody else's problem. I scoop her against my chest and keep moving toward the med bay, because that is where she is needed most right now. Inside, the air smells like burnt metal and fear. A young engineer named Owen Price is sitting against the wall, knees pulled to his chest, hands pressed over his ears. He is 19 years old, and this is his first deployment. His eyes are wide and unfocused, the kind of look I have seen before, the look of a mind that has simply stopped being able to process what is happening. I kneel beside him and set Biscuit down on his lap. For a second, nothing changes. Then his hands come away from his ears, slow and uncertain, and settle instead on her fur. She starts to purr, loud and steady, completely indifferent to the chaos around her. Owen's breathing begins to slow. His shoulders drop half an inch. It is such a small thing, and yet I watch it happen like a miracle. An Ashen officer named Vesk stands in the doorway, watching this exchange with the particular stillness that means she is recording everything. The Ashen do not blink the way we do. They do not fidget. They simply observe, filing every detail into whatever vast internal architecture makes up their minds. "Explain," she says, in that flat, careful voice they all use when speaking our language. The creature has performed no medical function, yet the subject's vital signs are stabilizing. I do not have a clean answer for her. I never do. She's just there, I say. Sometimes that's enough. Vesk tilts her head, unsatisfied, and moves on to check the next casualty. I know this will not be the last time she asks. 3 days later, the fighting eases just enough for the fleet to regroup, and I find myself standing in a briefing room that smells like old coffee and stress. On the main screen is a chart the Ashen have been building for months, a graph that should not exist, one that tracks something they call the unidentified biological variable. In plain language, it is a chart of exactly how often Biscuit visits each section of the ship, laid next to human performance data from that same section. The correlation is impossible to ignore. On days she visits engineering, error rates drop. On days she sleeps in the mess hall, arguments go down, and productivity goes up. On the day she sat with Owen during the attack, his reaction time in his next shift was faster than it had been in weeks. An Ashen commander named Threll stands before the chart with his arms folded, studying it the way a mathematician studies a proof that refuses to balance. "We have run 11,000 simulations," he says. "None of them account for this pattern. The creature provides no strategic value by any metric we recognize, and yet the numbers do not lie." A human captain named Miriam Blackwood, our ranking officer, leans back in her chair with the faint ghost of a smile. "Maybe your metrics are missing something," she says. Threll does not answer. I do not think he has one. Word spreads through the fleet fast after that. Other human crews start requesting details, half joking, half serious, about how they might get an animal of their own aboard their ships. The Ashen, being Ashen, take the idea completely seriously. Within 2 weeks, one of their vessels, a ship called the Clarity, attempts to replicate the effect using a small mechanical creature built to look and move like a cat. It has sensors that track crew stress and adjusts its behavior to match, based entirely on the data Threll's people collected from Biscuit. It does not work. Crew members report that the mechanical version feels wrong, uncanny, like something watching rather than something present. One engineer on the Clarity describes it as unsettling rather than comforting. The Ashen file this as inconclusive and move on to their next theory, unaware that they have just proven the very thing they cannot measure. Comfort is not a function. It cannot be built. It has to be real. I laugh when I hear about it, the first real laugh I have had in weeks. And for a moment, the war feels a little further away. That distance does not last. 4 days later, we receive word that the main enemy fleet, a faction called the Drovane, has changed course and is heading directly for our position. The Drovane are relentless, efficient, and they do not retreat. Every ship in the coalition begins preparing for what Command is calling the decisive engagement, the battle that will either break the war open in our favor or break us completely. The night before the battle, I cannot sleep. I walk the lower corridors instead, past crew members trying to rest, past Ashen officers running silent calculations on handheld screens, until I find Ellie sitting outside the crew quarters with Biscuit curled in her lap. "You think she knows?" Ellie asks quietly, running a hand along Biscuit's back. "That tomorrow is different?" "I don't think she knows anything," I say, sitting down beside them. "I think that's the whole point." Ellie laughs softly, but there are tears in her eyes. She has been on this ship longer than I have. She has lost people. We all have. I used to think bringing her aboard was selfish, she admits. Like I just wanted something soft to hold on to. Now I think maybe that's exactly what we all needed. Something that didn't care about the war. Something we could still protect. I do not have an answer for that either, so I just sit with her until the corridor lights dim for the night cycle. The battle begins at dawn ship time, though there is no real dawn in open space, just the sudden flare of enemy engines lighting up the black. The hollow star shakes under the first wave of fire, and for the next several hours, everything becomes noise and motion and the tight, controlled fear of people doing their jobs, because the alternative is unthinkable. I am stationed near the medbay again, moving supplies, when Owen appears beside me, steadier now than he was during the last attack. He has Biscuit tucked inside his jacket, her small orange head poking out near his collar, and he is grinning despite the chaos around us. "She's my good luck charm," he shouts over the noise, and for reasons I cannot explain, that makes me believe it too. Hour after hour, the battle grinds on, and something strange begins to happen across the fleet. Human crews, exhausted and outnumbered, keep performing above what any model predicted. Reaction time stays sharp. Coordination holds where it should have broken. Later, when the numbers are reviewed, the Ashen will find that ships with the strongest morale patterns, the ones most closely tied to the presence of a certain small animal, outperform their projected survival odds by a margin their equations cannot explain. At the peak of the fighting, someone snaps a picture of Biscuit asleep in a crash chair, completely unbothered by the battle raging outside the hull, and sends it through the fleet's internal communication channel. It spreads in minutes. Exhausted crew members on a dozen ships glance at their screens between commands and see her there, undisturbed, unbothered, alive. It should mean nothing. It means everything. By the time the Drovane fleet finally retreats, battered and outmaneuvered, the coalition has held. We have won, not easily, not without cost, but we have won. In the weeks after, during the peace negotiations, I am called into a room with several Ashen analysts, including Threll and Vesk. They have spent the time since the battle, trying to build a model that finally explains the pattern, some equation that captures exactly why a small, ordinary animal, with no strategic training and no combat function, became one of the most statistically significant factors in our survival. We have tried comfort scores, Threll says, gesturing at another failed chart, attachment simulations, predictive companionship algorithms. None of them produce results that match the original data. You're overthinking it, I tell him, and for once, he actually looks at me instead of the screen. Then explain it simply, he says. I think about Owen's shaking hands, steadying under her weight. I think about Ellie's tears in the quiet corridor. I think about a photograph of a sleeping cat spreading across a fleet at war, giving frightened people something small and soft to hold on to when nothing else made sense. She never won the war, I say. She just made sure we still had something worth fighting for by the time it ended. Threll does not respond right away. He studies me the way he studies his charts, searching for the variable he is missing. I do not think he will ever find it, not in a way his equations can hold. Some things are not meant to be measured. They are only meant to be felt. Months later, the war is finally over, and peace holds steady across the systems we once fought to protect. Biscuit still lives aboard the Hollow Star, older now, slower, but just as unimpressed by the importance everyone keeps placing on her. Ashen delegates visiting the ship still ask to see her, still take notes, still try to understand what they are looking at. They never really do. And honestly, I have stopped trying to explain it. Some things are not won through logic or strategy or perfect calculation. Sometimes, the smallest, softest thing on the ship is the reason everyone else finds the strength to keep going. That was never a mystery to us. It only ever was to them.